Call to order, City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. If I could get a roll call, please.
Gesme.
Here.
Grote.
Here.
Jepson. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Cronenberger.
Here.
Lundell. Montgomery.
Here. We're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, but as we stand, we are going to observe a moment of silence in honor of the heroes that lost their lives Sunday in Burnsville, the two police officers and the medical technician firefighter who were gunned down. So we are going to respect them and have our moment of silence before we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. If I could get an approval, before I ask for the approval of tonight's agenda, we're going to remove item C from the consent agenda. There is some ongoing paperwork for the John Birch Park user agreement that has been brought up, so we were going to remove that from the consent agenda. With that said, if I could get a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So it's not on the agenda at all?
It's not on the agenda, it's being removed from tonight's agenda. It's all right.
Move to accept the agenda.
Motion from Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Jepson, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Nobody has signed up for public input, so we're going to go straight to consent agenda. The consent agenda items may be adopted under one motion as presented or may be removed for discussion and resolution as council business. Item A, the just and correct claims for the accounting period that ended on February 15th. Item B, the meeting minutes for February 6th, 2024 City Council. Item C, approve Minnesota Energy Resource easement. Item D, approve the new therapeutic massage practitioner license for Karen O'Connor. Item E, resolution 2739, approving the conditional use permit for a used car dealership. And that is going to be it for the consent agenda. Is there anything the council would like to see pulled down? Hearing none, I'd seek a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion from Gesme.
Second.
Second from Diane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Brings us to council business. Resolution 2738, authorizing the interfund loan for advance of funds to the EDA from the City of Cannon Falls to finance Hardwood Estates. Laura, if you would like to start with this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The EDA last year in February and in April had brought the professional service agreements forward to the council for the engineering services and construction for Hardwood Estates. And then the bid for Albrightson Excavating, that resolution had been approved in October of 23. And the construction costs for that were 1.2 million estimated. And then anyway, February 1st, our EDA, we met, and based on our auditor's guidance, after they had reviewed everything from 23, they had determined what fund from the city and which one from the EDA account would be the best ones for the interfund loan to be set up, for which one the EDA should use to repay back the counts or the city account. So the EDA had they had passed a resolution at the February EDA meeting. So this evening, I am bringing forward a resolution to the council, basically requesting support and approval for Resolution 2738 to establish that interfund loan. And that would be from the general fund, from the general fund of the cities to the planning and EDA fund to cover the costs for construction of the Hardwood Estates. So I would entertain any questions that you might have. But basically, it would be a 20-year, the terms of the loan would be The sum is $1,245,857.20, plus the engineering of those I keep saying PSA like public service agreement, the professional service agreements from WHKS. So that would be in addition to that 1.2 million. And then it would be the EDA reimbursing the city from the planning and zoning and EDA fund to the general fund over a 20-year length of the loan term. And with the lot sales that the sales from the lots that we sell is what we'll use to repay back that loan. And it can be paid back in whole or in part at any time during that loan period. And then after that 20 years, or as we approach that, it can be reevaluated by whoever is sitting in your chairs if it is not you at that time. So I would take any questions that you may have.
Who made these, like the loan agreement? Like, who actually set like 20 years, 0%? This is actually the only problem I have with this is the 0% part of it. You know, like Neil, you brought up, it has to be kind of run like a business. Well, there's no way a banker's ever going to give you a $1.2 million loan for 20 years at 0%. At least mine won't. So, but that'd be my only question. So.
Okay. Well, and I guess, you know, from the beginning with this project, I guess my answer to you would be, and Neil can certainly respond from his perspective too. But, you know, with the difference between the EDA doing this project, you know, our goal is not to, you know, necessarily profit from the sales of the lots.
And that, yep.
You know, I mean, it's about the economic, the churn, you know, that will create, you know, whether it's the increase in the student enrollment, it's the workers, hopefully, that, you know, will move here, that will, whether they open businesses or they start working for employers that are already here, they spend money in our businesses. So that's, you know, so it's different than a private developer, you know, that's looking to profit from it. So, you know, there's always kind of a blurry line, you know, when we're talking about the EDA being a government entity and the city being a government entity, you know, it's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, you know, when you look at it that way. So if we look at it as a partnership, you know, that's kind of where we look at, you know, this, you know, hoping the city wouldn't charge an interest rate to the EDA, so that's kind of our partnership and way of making this project happen.
Do you not like charge interest on your loans to like Keith Myers and?
We do.
Okay.
Yep. And we do have, you know, and it is we just reevaluated and readjusted that policy just a couple years ago, actually. Before it was like at a set 3%, and a couple years ago we did just reevaluate that. And, you know, but we have other incentives that we can use for, you know, when we work with businesses, as far as like we could do, you know, tax abatement, we could do tax increment financing in order to make some of those projects happen. You know, in this case, we're creating, you know, market rate housing. We're not creating, there could be some ways, I suppose, if we wanted to structure a TIF district around housing. It gets to be pretty complicated. But it gets to be a little bit harder with housing if you're not doing a multifamily or an income-based type of development. So it's hard for us to apply, I guess you could say, for incentives for ourselves in this particular development. So it'd be different if we were either given the land, you know, to help reduce the cost for the development. But in this case, we're trying to make the best out of what the situation is. So I guess I'll defer to Neil if he has any other explanation.
Well, you can do whatever you want. You can charge whatever interest rate you want. to me, it's, the EDA is not an enterprise fund where it's not a business fund. Your water, your sewer, your stormwater, that's enterprise funds. The EDA is, like Laura said, is more of a partnership. Now, if you were borrowing this money from the sewer fund, would you put an interest rate on it? Probably. It really depends on the council's feelings towards what's going on. But with the EDA, like Laura said, there's no incentives that we can go after. I mean, we could, but then we'd have to change the development into something that probably wouldn't be as attractive to the city. So you as the council can put any amount of interest rate on that development as you please. We put a 0% on there to be in a partnership. Now, the thought process all along was to borrow this a one-time thing, use this money as the additions go through, and lot sales would create enough income minus the payback of the initial to fund the second phase, to fund the third phase. You can pay back change the terms and pay back all the money and then reborrow it, if you know what I mean, on another loan, interfund loan. But we lumped it all in one because they thought we would use that cash to fund second phase, to fund third phase. And then at the end of the day, pay the money back to the city, per se, right? The EDA is the city. So that was the thought process. So in reality, yes, you have the ability to charge what you would like. We use 0% as a partnership. So if you want to have that discussion, we can put whatever number you want in there.
I just, I tried to make it simple for me to understand, and the 0% makes sense to me because it seems like we're borrowing money to each other inside the city as a whole, and to charge another account interest, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me, because you used Peter and Paul already, right? So I can't use that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're taking money from this fund to give to this fund, and it's kind of like in the same household. It's how I understand it. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that just one big part of the whole system. It's not like they're the EDA and we're the city, but they're part of the city, and it's the same pie. We're just moving the pieces around. If you ask me, that's how I looked at it. If we fire department needs a new truck, they need it today. They don't have the funds available. They get the funds somehow from us, and that payback is relatively the same way. We get the money back that we gave them in the first place at no extra expense.
Are you sure of that?
Well, I think when we look at the entirety of Hardwood Estates, and when the EDA brought this up, and when we went through the questions, we were asking the city for support in this. And I understand, you're absolutely right. In the private sector alone, you're going to have an interest rate. But these are two piggy banks under the same umbrella. So to charge one entity to try to pay back the other, it ends up costing our community in the long run, and that's extra money.
It's going to cost us in the long run if it doesn't sell out.
Well, I'm willing to gamble on the future of Cannon Falls. I support this community, and I think that our votes in the past have shown that Hardwood Estates, I don't want to say it's a safe bet, but we all believe in this
Yeah, I
community.
hope it
We
would.
want that place to be full.
I'd be fine.
We made that decision. months ago, we're not waiting for the private sector. We're not waiting for interest rates. The EDA didn't act independently to say we're going to finance this on our own because we knew it would have cost more money. And once we had the support of the council, we said, we're moving forward with this project. Yes, these costs, I get it. But we sell the lots, we pay back, we open the door for phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. I feel like this is just working together in concert. And if 0%, if we can, not cost our taxpayers any extra money, it's the right thing to do.
Well,
Any other questions, comments for
Comment.
Laura or Neil?
I will say, it costs us money to loan the money without interest because it means that it's not available for other projects. But that's just another, I won't argue. I would agree with Ryan that I think we should charge at least 5% interest. The other thing is, I think the length of the loan should be 5 years, and I think that the lot sales, instead of say must be used to repay the loan. And I think in 5 years, the new council at that point should have the opportunity whether or not then to fund phase 3 or phase 4, as opposed to this council tying the hands of future councils. So I would like to see this redone to have a 5-year loan. The lot sales first be used to repay the loan. And then, I have a spreadsheet because I wanted to get my numbers straight. And I know the city has already agreed to all of these things, but when we say, there again, you never have a loan where you have an open-ended number. So we've got the actual one bid plus engineering costs, and I'm assuming the other costs that we've incurred up to this point, which the city has already paid. We've already paid out $749,391.06 out of the Fund 413. So I'm wondering, when they're asking for this money to be transferred, I know that's some kind of an accounting trick where it's the loan for the whole amount, but a lot of it's already been expended, so that there'd only be the remaining amount that actually was put into that fund. I mean, we're asking for, at this point, $1.414 million loan, if you add in the engineering costs. Most of that has already been paid, or a great deal of it. There's only $665,000 left on the excavating company. So I'm assuming we don't give them all of that money if we've already spent a good deal of it. But that, I'm assuming, is some kind of an accounting thing that it comes out as that's the amount that the loan would be for. But
Let's put a pause on breaking the numbers down and maybe walk this back to the general purpose of the interfund loan for advance. Am I correct to say that this is what our auditor had suggested us to do? Because we had already agreed as the council that the city would basically be like the co-signer, if you will, to support this project. That has already happened, right? Okay. So this was our auditor saying, hey, there should be, so that the funds can go back and forth, so that you get the loan from, and then you pay back. So all these details and these numbers, I'm not saying they're irrelevant, but we're talking about tonight, the interfund loan itself. If terms are still flexible, I guess we can talk terms, the percent and the years. I think it's extremely dangerous to try to push it to 5 years, because we've seen communities like Goodhue do a housing development and it can take 15 or 20 years and they're still building houses. We were looking long-term. I don't think that to say that trying to build our community is handcuffing our future. I would hope that council, not necessarily on board with the project, but betting on our community, on our future, on our growth, trying to limit that window to 5 years, I think is more dangerous, because then this would be wasted money. Then we would be costing our taxpayers more by saying, well, we gave it a shot, we didn't like it, we shut it down, and now it's a field with 2 houses in there. I think that's silly. I think the ball is rolling downhill. We keep this project on track, and I hope that it's, a nice, responsible growth. I would love to see those lots sell and be able to pay back this loan and say that it's a success within 3 years. But I don't want to limit ourselves to a term just because we had this idea to say, well, we should make it shorter and charge our city more. I think that's foolish. Any other thoughts, questions from the council?
I just got one comment that Diane did send out a little spreadsheet here, but what we're talking about is an interfund loan for a certain dollar amount. The EDA has paid money for the first payment and the second payment out of their fund, right? And a lot of this money was paid out of their fund. They're not asking you to put that in this interfund loan. That's already money the EDA has paid out. So when you look at these numbers, that's for the total amount, but there's a whole bunch of that in that spreadsheet that's been paid by the EDA.
Well,
It's not outstanding is what you're saying.
It's not part of this interfund loan.
okay, Fund 413, where all of the engineering, excavating,
That's the project number.
correct?
Every time we do a project, we attach a number to it. Everything now, your 2024 reconstruction project, it's got a project number. Everything that we do with that goes into there. Okay? We don't grab it and put it over here. So we know what everything costs. Now, this interfund loan will be a circle. It'll start out as general fund money, it'll go to the EDA money, and then it'll go to 413.
Okay, and I'll, 'cause like I said, I only go with what I can figure out from what limited information we're given.
That's
But and at
what's
least
going
it
on
was-
here.
Yeah, at least it was nice to be able to find it all in the one fund.
And just so you know, you're spot on with that 749 because it matches our spreadsheet
Did it?
off
Okay.
the county, or off the
Yeah,
accounting.
I never guarantee that I type in numbers correctly. I have a tendency to transpose.
But the EDA, on your spreadsheet, EDA has picked up two payments. They were what, 100 and,
Yeah, I
60,000.
have that. That's under Fund 260, the
Correct.
EDA. Yeah, I have
Correct.
them having paid that.
yeah. So,
But I also know that the council did agree, the old council, that if they couldn't make the last three payments, the city would help out there also. I think, so we need, just so I'm to be aware of that. I would still, I will agree with Mr. Mayor that I'll let the finance people figure out how the money goes around in circles. But I would still like to have an actual number for the loan, knowing that, obviously, if we get, are there going to be more engineering costs on Phase 1 or Phase 2? Or are we pretty much done with those, do you think?
It should be, it should be under those two, because the first professional service agreement was for the pre-construction, like the pre-plat and the, like all the
Yeah.
the conceptual designs and everything. And then the second one was including all of the, all the infrastructure, all of the oversight of Albrightson, whoever was going to get the bid. It was everything included in that. And then once the bid for the excavating company was assigned, then that was at 1.2 million.
So do we still owe them more on those contracts? The engineer?
Yes, because there will be, because the construction isn't done yet.
Okay, that's what.
Yep.
So like I said, I would just feel better if we had more of a real figure in terms of the amount loan to be considered in this loan. And I'll say 5 years might be too soon, but I would like it to be on 10 years because I do think if we haven't gotten 29 homes built in 10 years, Matt, we got more problems than that. And yes, I want to see it, now that it's there, now that we've got this money all committed and spent, I would like to see it succeed. But I also want us to be flexible enough that if 10 years from now, when we're looking at phase 3, we might say we need to move in a different direction, being whatever the needs are of the community at the time and the housing needs are. I mean, I don't know that any of us have a crystal ball and can see 10 years. I mean, everybody now, they're saying we're going from, we don't want to limit it to single-family homes. We want to intersperse, townhomes and apartments in different neighborhoods to get more homes and more housing units built. So,
And that's also why we're doing it in phases too. So, I mean, we start with 29 in phase 1,
Right.
and then depending on what the housing needs are after
Right.
that is complete, or, whatever the needs are of the community, or, if
and
it
like
is.
I said, in 10 years, the whole phase 2, 3, and 4 might be built out.
Sure.
We don't know.
But I think we could also press pause on this and take action in 10 years and change things versus putting the finish line 10 years earlier than what we're talking about right now. I don't see any harm in the 20 years, 0%. I don't feel that there's any advantage to try to move the finish line earlier. I think that limits us and maybe even puts more pressure on trying to push it
Well, the EDA
quicker.
could change it too, couldn't they? 10 years down the road?
Could the EDA change what they're asking for in 10 years? Sure. Any other questions, comments, discussion from the council?
Is this money budgeted already in our budget for this?
Yeah, all this stuff was approved. So we've got it talked about when we talked about where we were going to get it all from and back in the time period. And all we're doing tonight is following our auditor's advice. And whenever we come upon things like this here, we depend on them. We pay them a pretty chunk of money every year. It's $30,000+ to do our audit. And with that, they get to help us set up these funds. And when we come across these, plus some other ones, we talk to them all the time, and we want to do it once and not twice. So we ask them how to set it up before we even start. And so they're the experts in the field, and this is their work. This is how they wanted it set up. So we're just bringing it to you to get it onto the next audit for 2023. So.
And one thing we got to remember, when these houses are built, we get more tax revenue. These houses are getting built a lot sooner having the EDA do it than waiting on a private developer.
Oh.
Because we've sat and waited for how many private developers around town. The EDA is already, they're already going.
And
So,
another thing too is if, I don't want to argue the point again, but if we charge interest, that's a direct increase in the cost of our lots, or the cost of the lots, which we're trying to hold down anyway. And if the city has to have a little skin in the game to get the houses up and the new homeowners starting to pay taxes, I think it's a gain. I think it would be a gain from that aspect. The 20-year thing, the reason I like that is in 10 years, you might have a council that shuts it down. Now we got half a field and everybody's staring at that thing. We've already had one of those things going on the south end of town. Once this thing starts rolling, I just think we need to make sure it keeps going. I feel good about it the way it is.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2738. Motion from Mr. Lundell. Second from Mr. Gesme. All those in favor?
Roll call?
We'll take this vote first. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
So that's a 5-1. It passes. Council business item B, introduction and first reading of ordinance 404, an ordinance of the city of Cannon Falls, amending city code chapter 152 related to zoning. Zach, you want to take this one?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Council. Before you tonight is an ordinance text amendment amending parts of our city code relating to zoning of residential treatment facilities. Currently, there's a moratorium in place that prohibits residential treatment facilities from operating in residential areas. However, that moratorium expires in May of this year. So for the past 5-ish months, we've been working with the Planning Commission to figure out a way where we can have these facilities operate in our city while also making sure the public is safe, right? So you'll notice there's a new definition in your packet that separates the definitions from treatment facilities from centers that deal with emotional disturbance or drugs, that sort of thing. And these new facilities that deal with drugs, emotional disturbance are now called rehab centers. And there's language in our city code that prohibits them from operating in residential areas. These rehab centers were allowed, and they're still allowed, in the B2 district, so the south end of town, via a conditional use permit. However, we also added some new conditions that must be met in order for them to obtain their permit. So this has been going on for a while now. I did a lot of research into what other cities are doing, kind of trying to mirror that, working with our city attorney, Shelley, to make sure we follow all the Minnesota statutes. And what you guys have is a product of all that work, so take any questions that you guys might have.
Does this affect our moratorium in any way at the time being?
No, I think we're just going to let our moratorium expire, and then when you guys hopefully approve this, then it'll take effect then.
Perfect. Great job on this. With any existing business that acts like this, is the conditional use permit, could we ever put some of the regulations that are put in this document, which are wonderful, it can't be renewed, and it's never under inspection or anything? Grandfather.
If there was, if they were to ever have a new owner, then could we? Okay. Okay.
And not to get off track, but I remember when we talked about conditional use then, it was basically like road parking, and it was very limited. I love the language in here about the trees, the fencing, it just seems like there's more aspects of control that's fair to the people who live in the vicinity, and it's obviously a good business and has a great intention, and that's wonderful, but I really like how this was put together. So, any other questions for Zach? Hearing none, I would seek approval or a motion to approve introduction and first reading of ordinance 404.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion from Diane, second from Ryan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Gets us to reports. Chamber of Commerce, Maggie is not here, but after our last meeting before this one, the chamber breakfast was held, and I got to give the State of the City address. And my State of the City last year, I said that our economy was promising, and this year I used the word encouraging. And I know they sound really similar, but what I said is last year we had a lot of ideas that were floating and out on the horizon, and now those ideas are here and coming to fruition. Lots are sold. Parking lot at the Keller Bartman apartment complex is full. People are moved in. We are seeing these things grow right before us. So it's thrilling. I also got to talk about the year that was, 2023, honor all of our people, Brenda, Sulo, our police team, the things that we dealt with this last year that, I'm sure a lot of you remember the evacuation at the terrace. We were dealing with the terrace a lot, talking about what we're going to do with that building. Tim Malchow had to go there last March and lead an evacuation to keep residents safe in a building that was deemed uninhabitable. We had a shooting. We had a SWAT team have to come. We had a soft lockdown for our community. And I know that lives were saved that day. Things could have been much, much worse. And then the apartment fire, which I know that Sulo has been awarded. And I don't think I've never met anybody that's in law enforcement or medical services or firefighting that does it for the recognition or the awards. But the stories that Chief McCormick said of that day, breaking through the window, saving, 2 young kids, and then getting hit by a falling curtain rod, being taken to the hospital for smoke inhalation and burn, and then returning to work that same night. I think that says a lot about SULO. I think it also says a lot about our EMS staff and their willingness to put other people's safety as their priority and to see it through. So that was the chamber event. It was a very good breakfast. There were a lot of people there. It was well attended, and glad to see that. Finance Committee met on the 12th. Steve or Derek, if you'd like to.
Oh, yeah. We talked about the liquor and sexually oriented business fees. If we do change anything, it'll be later this year. And then discuss the Cannon Mall assessments this morning.
All right. The Library Board also met on the 12th.
Yep. Nicole got a grant to help pay for doors, and there's going to be a new Cellco app available. I checked before the meeting. It's not there yet.
All right. Planning Commission also met on the 12th.
We had 2 things on the agenda, and we had 2 public hearings. And one was discuss the conditional use permit for cars under 10K, which we approved tonight, which is going up across from Nate's shop up there where the old car lot was. And the other one was the text amendment relating to the zoning of residential treatment facilities, which we discussed and passed tonight too. So that was all we had.
All right. Thank you. Jed, anything from you?
I don't have anything tonight.
All right. Zach? Laura? Joe?
Thank you for the moment of silence at the start of the meeting. I'd just like to thank those that reached out to Chief McCormick and our department to show your support for our police officers. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Just a reminder, there is not a council meeting on March 5th. That will be the presidential nomination primary
Super
that will
Tuesday.
be happening here.
Yeah.
So 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'll be here. Come see me.
Neil, anything you'd like to add? Laura?
Nope.
Lisa?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Ryan?
See you in a month.
All right. Derek?
No.
Diane? Steve? I want to say thank you or congratulations to the Bomber Dance Team. Made it to state, got to perform. I think in one of the categories they placed 6th. So congratulations on another great year. Yeah, that moment of silence, for whatever reason, this one, we've dealt with too many of these things as a country and as a state. This one hit me hard. I have very close friends and family who are in law enforcement. And yeah, this one, I've heard horror stories. And when you go deal with domestics, it just seems like you never know which way things can turn. So our thoughts and prayers are with you guys, and you definitely have our support as a community. And if you ever need anything to go and assist Burnsville, you let us know, and we support it. So, all right. I would take a motion to adjourn. Motion from Gesme. Do I have a second? Second from Lisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.